What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Draft Report. In today's video, we'll be talking about Michigan quarterback JJ McCarthy and if he should be a top 10 pick in April. Let's get into it. Looking at the box scores and overall stats alone, it might surprise you that JJ McCarthy is getting top 10, even top 6 hype in this NFL draft, but he's next in a long line of drafting quarterbacks with traits over stats. And those traits are typically arm talent and running ability / speed. And while McCarthy has a solid arm, I think it gets a little overrated. As we'll see here, McCarthy does a great job getting zip on the football. That's not what I'm questioning, but I do question how elite his arm truly is, because we'll see here on this over the middle dig route, he does a great job getting into that lower half and really ripping the ball in there. The ball gets there quickly. As we can see from the other angle, this ball is really flying, and he throws with enough velocity to fit it in almost any window over the middle of the field. And most people associate this with an elite arm, but I kind of disagree with that fact because McCarthy's comes more from his lower half. As we see here, McCarthy has a nice wide base. When he's able to plant his feet, he gets nice wide feet pointed to his target, and then he really turns his hips quickly. He has a very flexible and bendy lower half, unlike many guys, and he can really get a lot of torque and rotation out of that lower half, really planting that foot in the ground, getting strong lower body motion, and then putting all of that weight into the throw and masking his arm talent deficiency with very good velocity, because he's almost like a pitcher on a mound in baseball, really getting all of that ability out of his lower body and very flexible movement, very flexible thrower, and can really rip that thing in there, getting it there before the safety bears down on it. This plays another example of McCarthy's zip and velocity he gets on the ball, but this is also just an excellent throw overall. So we're going to have Michigan State here lined up in a cover 3 with this corner patrolling the outside third. This safety is going to patrol the inside third, and then we're actually going to have a rotation. This corner is going to carry the outside third while this safety is going to rotate in. Pre-snap, you can't really tell that. And then Michigan is going to run an in-breaker to take one of the linebackers away. They're going to run this guy in motion. He's going to run a streak to stress both of these outside corners. This guy's also going to run a streak to take this outside third out of the play, and then we're going to have a seam streak up the middle with this tight end. And what this is really going to stress this middle zone guy, because he's going to have to choose between the two seam streaks from both tight ends, and this linebacker here is forced to carry the inside one of whichever tight end is going to carry the seam. And we see McCarthy reads this out very well. So we see on the snap, McCarthy recognizes this safety rotates, so he sees this guy's dropping down. He knows there's going to be a hole over the middle here because this safety is dropping down into the box. He gets to the top of his drop. He realizes that this tight end has leverage on this safety. He realizes that this safety's hips are turned this way, and he's not going to be able to get downhill towards the ball quick enough. So he uses that excellent zip, hits the top of his drop, throws when his receiver's not even open right here. He's throwing his receiver to an open spot, and then excellent throw, has the velocity to get it there before any defenders can, but throws not too flat, puts it in a great spot to where number 27 here can't turn his head around and get hands on it. This is an excellent throw. We watch it in full speed. It looks very simple, but he's reading this safety very well. He's dropping down. He recognizes that he has an open spot in the middle of the field, throws with excellent velocity, zips it in there. We can see from the other angle, again, that rotational throwing motion that he does possess. It's kind of hard to tell, but we can see that he does get that great velocity on it, zips it in there. Excellent throw. We can see that his whole body is rotating, again, like a pitcher on a pitcher's mound. You can see he's getting full body rotation. Those hips are really opening up and allowing his body to get full maximum rotation. Again, that flexible, bendy throwing motion to get every possible ounce of velocity out of the smaller frame and lackluster arm of McCarthy. Just look at how much zip this ball has coming from a dude who is so small. You can see that whip-like motion on his arm and the lower body tools coming into play here. Excellent throw in the red zone. So as I mentioned before, I believe McCarthy's arm gets overrated because of the zip he can put on the ball. And this really shows up on deep throws, as there was so many times when I charted the games where it was McCarthy underthrown deep ball, and I was like, why are there so many underthrown deep balls? And I realized it's because deep throws require much more pure arm strength, and you can't really just get by with lower body motion to throw it as far as you can. It's a lot more just pure arm strength to get the ball down there. And this play is kind of a good example of that. We can see McCarthy's getting ready to throw from about his own 38. So this is going to be a long throw to put it out almost near the goal line of his receiver. This is a 60-ish air yard throw, maybe a little under that. Which not many guys in the league can make, but McCarthy's getting put in these conversations with, top tier quarterbacks, and he's viewed as this toolsy guy like an Anthony Richardson or a Will Levis or someone like that with this cannon, and I just don't think he has that. We see his receiver has 2-3 steps on this slower safety. All he needs to do is put it out towards the hashes, maybe at the 15-yard line, 10-yard line on the hashes, about a 55-yard air yard throw, 60-yard air yard throw, which is doable for him. Or should be doable if he's going as high as he should. And we see he's throwing from a clean base, clean pocket. So this should pretty much be a perfect setup to throw a max distance throw. And we see the ball's in the air. And again, his receiver has so much separation. Just put it out in front of him, get it a little bit past the 10, out by the numbers. McCarthy not only throws it behind him, but also just doesn't have that distance. We can see his receiver starts slowing up about the 15. This ball could easily be caught at around the 5, but it just falls about 5 yards short. Luckily, his receiver is able to make an excellent catch, but his lack of arm strength was able to give the DB time to catch up. He doesn't have that distance to lay it out in front of a receiver 50 yards downfield. And at the next level, this will definitely get broken up more often than it did in college. This play against Rutgers is a great example of just his pure arm strength. He really is able to get no legs on this throw, which gives us a good gauge of his arm strength. We see design blitz comes in, McCarthy senses it well, steps up in the pocket. He's able to avoid the pressure, but then he sees his receiver coming open on the left side of the field. He's going to just toss this up to the end zone, but he has no base under him. This is all arms. This is just pure arm strength, and he's only throwing it from his 23-yard line. It is across the field to the opposite end zone, but, top-tier arm talent guys are able to get it there. And McCarthy, obviously, the ball falls a good 5 yards short of his receiver, nowhere near him. You can just see the ball flutters out, no real strength on that throw. And this is just not an elite arm. I get that this is going to be a tough throw, and it's tough to throw without a base under you, but I see guys like Caleb Williams and Patrick Mahomes, they can just be running all around, and then at any moment from any platform, even without their feet under him, we saw Mahomes make a throw horizontal to the ground 30 yards downfield. That's what arm talent is. Arm talent is not this just lackluster throw, no base under him, but McCarthy is just not special when it comes to the arm talent. Well, McCarthy's arm talent gets a little bit overrated. I think his athleticism truly lives up to the hype. We can see here this blitz comes in from Michigan State, and he avoids not 1 but 2 sacks. He does a great job here just quickly avoiding this. He has great short area quickness, and I think that's his greatest strength. He might not be the fastest guy in the open field, but his agility and quickness just in his one step, his twitchiness out of his stance is very good, and it helps him a ton avoiding sacks. We see here it's just a little quick movement. He's able to quickly avoid, and then he gets his head up to the next blocker. This guy's a free rusher. All he has is one step in front of him. He's able to quickly juke him out too, puts him almost on the ground, and then he shows that 4.5, 4.6 speed maybe, and is able to get out in space, pick up the first down, and more. He is a very good athlete. He's not Lamar Jackson out there, but not many quarterbacks are. He has enough agility to get outside and run, and he's excellent at avoiding sacks because of this. So I think that's one of his biggest strengths. McCarthy can also be used as a design runner, as we see here. Read option. This linebacker comes flying off the edge, but he is in close range enough to tackle most quarterbacks. But McCarthy shows that quickness, gets out of his stance so fast. You can just see that immediate burst. While he might not be the true top speed fastest, he gets that top speed immediately. He just bursts so quickly. He's able to get that edge, burns the edge of, actually, that's a cornerback. That's Kalen King, I believe. He's able to outrun him in space, and then he gets the edge. He does get chased down by this linebacker here, but that's just a pure angle thing. Again, his speed isn't angle burning necessarily, but you can see that quickness out of his stance is exceptional. He gets upfield quickly, and then I like this little move at the 50. You can see that kind of bend he has. He's able to get upfield without losing speed. I like that, especially when it comes to read options like this, to really set that edge and get up and be effective as a read option runner. This is only about a, 5-6 yard pickup, but it's a pretty impressive run, being able to outrun a cornerback and then almost break the angle of another linebacker. Here's another designed run for McCarthy against Rutgers. Again, a read option. He does a good job reading it, and then he's able to get to the outside. This corner or safety, whoever is bites down too hard, and then McCarthy can just burn that angle. And then we see in space, he's running stride for stride with a defensive back here. He has true, receiver speed on the edge, and he's able to get upfield in a hurry, pick up a nice chunk play, and then goes out of bounds without taking a hit. McCarthy pairs his really good athleticism with a great ability to throw on the run. This season, he completed 76% of his passes while on the run, which is among the top of all of FBS and first among all draftable QBs this year. We can see here a good example of that out of structure magic he does possess. Slips that tackle, and then on the run, he's able to hit his receiver in stride for the touchdown. And he did this multiple times. He's great when he's able to get outside the pocket and use his legs to make plays with the arm, if that makes sense. While McCarthy possesses solid tools as a out-of-structure player, I do worry about his in-structure ability right now. At Michigan, he was often a one-read to check-down guy. On a play like this, we see this as a cover 2 shell, and we have a high-low on this side with a corner route and then a flat route, and this is kind of stressing this corner or linebacker here to make a decision, and he gets off this read a little slow. He hits the top of his drop and is still on that read, but I'd really like to see him take a glance over here. I'm guessing this is a 1 to 2 read, so this guy's open and you hit it. But when you sense this linebacker coming downhill towards this guy, I'd like to see him kind of snap his head back and look over the middle of the field and really read out the entire play instead of just going, 1 to 2, hitting the check down. He never really got past one read. It was pretty much one read to check down, never really making full field reads. We see on a play like this, if he's able to get off this read quickly, get to the middle of the field, he hits this guy running in space. This could be, a 15, 20-yard pickup, but instead he just plays it safe, hits his check down, and doesn't pick up a ton of yards. Here's another play that's one read and check down for McCarthy. We see we're going to have a seam route up here and a seam route up here, really making this safety choose. And McCarthy's not really going to read this out well. Hits the top of his drop. This guy's clearly covered. This safety is clearly roaming towards this guy. So I'd like to see him at the top of his drop get off of this receiver and maybe get either to one of these curls or to the seam route, whichever his second option is. But we see the center gets pushed back a little bit, so he's forced to make a quick check down, but he could definitely still make this throw up the seam. We see by the time he throws, this guy's wide open. Even a tick earlier, he's throwing this guy wide open. This guy's wide open. He's wide open. I'd really like to see him be a little more confident, getting to that second read, getting to the backside of plays, and not just always throwing to the check down, when your first read's not open. And he wasn't really asked to run many true pass concepts in college. We see his eyes the entire time are on Roman Wilson here. He never gets his eyes off him, hits the top of his drop, takes a good, 2-3 extra steps, and then throws the check down, never gets to the backside of the play. But this should come with time. While McCarthy didn't consistently run full field reads, he did show some promises of getting off and getting through progressions. Here we see an in-breaker and then a deeper dig, and his first option is Roman Wilson, but he's pretty well covered. He does a good job quickly flipping his head at the top of his drop, getting to this second dig route over the backside of the play. He sees this guy gets open and throws it on his break and hits him in stride. I really like this ability to, stay calm in the pocket, calmly get off this read, gets to this read. I'd like to see him maybe spend a little less time onto that Roman Wilson read. We can see he kind of stares down that route a little long, but then he gets to the backside of the play, a little jittery in the pocket, maybe a little uncomfortable really running this concept. You can see his feet, doesn't necessarily look poised, but he does it well anyways, brings his feet with him, which I like, is able to throw from a strong base because of this, brings his eyes and feet together. They're one part, and then he's able to deliver that throw in stride. This play here from the same game kind of shows McCarthy's inconsistency with timing and anticipation. He's not at an NFL level when it comes to truly timing up passing concepts. We see here the number one route on this play that he's staring down is going to be this curl at about the 40-ish yard line. And Michigan State, this middle linebacker recognized this. He's already bearing downhill on it. And this safety, his hips are back, so he's not going to be able to get to it. This guy's too far down, and this guy's too far outside. So it's really about this guy timing it up and throwing it before he can get there. And we really want to see this. You see, he's breaking at the 40, and when he breaks, McCarthy's arm is just starting to come out. This ball, if, a lot of NFL guys, the ball's already on him. McCarthy's just starting to throw it, and he barely gets it in there. We can see from the other angle this ball is placed exceptionally, and that's why it's able to get there. But we want McCarthy. I mean, this guy's already turning. When you see his number flip, that's when you want to be releasing the ball. Right here, the ball should be being released if you're throwing with good timing and anticipation, because at the next level, this guy, if that's Fred Warner, he's already at this hash and he gets downhill quicker. So you need to be throwing this ball as soon as those numbers are turning. He's turning at the 40. This ball needs to be out. McCarthy, we're waiting. We're waiting. He's already turned around. This ball needs to be on him, and the ball's not even out. This guy has to go into space a little bit, almost start to box out, because McCarthy is so late with this football. But we see, luckily, I mean, by the time this is thrown, this guy's clearly there. Luckily, the ball is placed in the one spot it could be. I mean, an exceptionally placed ball, but he got kind of lucky, because at the next level, again, if this is Fred Warner, this is a pick. You just can't throw with that poor of timing. The ball is just, it gets there quickly because of that whippy throw motion, and it's placed in the one spot it could be. So he gets lucky on this. I do like his ball placement most of the time over the middle of the field, but this is just not an NFL level dig route to me. In terms of accuracy, McCarthy's kind of an unusual case. He's very aggressive and pretty accurate targeting the middle of the field, but he struggles when it gets outside the numbers, which is uncommon. A lot of guys are very comfortable throwing outside the numbers where there's less defenders, but when it comes to throwing over the middle of the field, they get kind of scared and misplace their passes. But McCarthy's the opposite. We see here, this is a very aggressive, good middle of the field throw. His receiver gets past this linebacker, and McCarthy, maybe a little late. I'd like to see him throw it a little earlier, but then he throws it in the one place his receiver could get it right before the safety gets there. Excellent ball placement, able to throw it high enough where this corner can't make a play on it, but in the hole where this safety can't go and get it. You see this safety thinks it's overthrown because he has his hands out like he's ready to catch it in the breadbasket, but McCarthy puts this in a perfect spot. Absolutely incredible throw. Here's another good example from McCarthy. Straight blitz comes out of nowhere, and McCarthy stands strong in the face of pressure, puts this out in front of his receiver. He throws this before the break, and we can see this is right in the spot where his receiver can get it. It's kind of hard from that angle, but we see when this ball is thrown, his receiver is just now breaking. He leads him well. Receiver doesn't have to break stride, throws it out in front of him enough where this corner can't go and gets it. This receiver has a long frame. He's able to use his hands, and McCarthy, in the face of pressure, throws an absolute dime here. And that's another big strength of his game. He is not afraid to throw with defenders in his face. He's pretty accurate under pressure for the most part, and I just like his overall confidence when it comes to throwing with pressure. Here's the other side of McCarthy's accuracy, which is throwing outside of the hashes, outside of the numbers. This is a design dig, and this is a throw that you need to hit the NFL level. I get his receivers kind of covered, but this needs to be on the receiver. But you see McCarthy just totally airmails this, nowhere even close to his receiver. And I think this is a lot of times due to him not bringing his feet necessarily with him. You can see his feet are kind of aimed too far outside for this throw, so that causes it to be a little high and outside. Here's another play from that same game. This time it's kind of a deeper dig route, but still one that needs to be hit. This one's from a very clean pocket. He's able to get a clean base under him. His receiver has more separation, good 2 yards of separation, right past the sticks. Just put this out in space in front of him, nowhere even close. His receiver has no chance to catch it, and this is very common when he's throwing these outside digs or outside out routes. He just can't hit them at a consistent level right now. JJ also struggles with deep accuracy down the sidelines, as we see here. As I mentioned earlier, that he struggles just with overall arm talent and getting the ball downfield, but this one isn't really necessarily a strength thing. But we see at the throw, Roman Wilson has a good 2 steps of separation. Safety's not in the play, so this ball needs to be out in front of your guy, maybe away from the sidelines even to give him more space to run. And this definitely needs to be over his back shoulder, and if anything, miss long with it and not short, because that gives the DB a chance to make the play. And this needs to be on that back shoulder. Instead, this ball's on that front shoulder, and it allows the DB time to catch up. DB is able to get his hand in there and break it up. Roman Wilson has to slow down for this. If this ball's out in front at around the 45, it's probably a touchdown because Roman Wilson's so fast. He could just catch this in stride and go. You see guys like Michael Penix is excellent at just dropping it in the bucket. Jaden Daniels is another one. They play with very good receivers as well, but it's on the quarterback too of dropping it in the bucket on these throws and really putting it in a great place for the receiver. And McCarthy just doesn't do that very often. A lot of his deep throws end up like this. Forcing receivers to make crazy catches, and it does happen sometimes, but that's not what you want to do as a quarterback. This is a pass that needs to get completed at the next level. I mentioned earlier that McCarthy has pretty good poise under pressure, and for a young quarterback, it is really impressive, but he still could definitely improve in that aspect. He had about a 17% pressure to sack rate this year, which, is on the higher side, and this is kind of a typical play. We see he's on his reads, he hits the top of his drop, he needs to sense that this pressure's in his face. He has a wide open check down, just throw it out in front of you. But instead, once he hits that top of his drop, he just kind of collapses into the pocket, doesn't really step up to make a throw or try to bounce it outside, kind of does the worst thing and just stays in the middle, and that results in a sack. Here's another one, just kind of scared in the face of pressure. You see it's the top of his drop. He has 1 route open, 2 routes open, and then this curl is actually going to come open. So he has 3 routes open. He has a clean pocket right now. He could deliver this now, but he decides to wait an extra tick. And at this point, this corner is in his face. But still, right here, I'd like to see him throw it to 1, 2, 3, even four of his 5 receivers are open. He could deliver this. He could throw from a clean base, but he just looks flustered and then decides to bounce it out. He is able to hit this throw on the run, which is impressive, but we can see from the other angle just his footwork. He doesn't necessarily look poised under pressure like you see from Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or something. He kind of looks flustered. He's scared to throw to wide open receivers just because of a little pressure in his face, which is a little worrying, but he did complete almost 70% of his passes under pressure this year, so the stats back up that he does have pretty good poise for someone who's only 21 years old. One minor small thing that I kind of dislike with McCarthy is his reliance or overconfidence in his athleticism. On the season, he only had 1 throwaway, which is very weird. And it's because of plays like these. You see, he bounces it outside. He does have a touchdown right here, but that's besides the point. He bounces it outside, and like here, you have a cornerback chasing you down. I know you're fast, but you're not that fast. You're not going to get outside of that guy. He's able to hawk him down, and it results in a loss. It's not a huge thing, but just throw it away at this point. To only have 1 throwaway the entire season is kind of weird, especially for a guy who works outside of the pocket a lot. He just doesn't do it, and he tries to outrun everyone when he's really not some super special athlete that can just outrun or break tackles at a crazy level. So he just needs to learn when to throw the ball away, but that's a pretty small fix. So that's going to wrap up the film portion of today's episode. I just want to finish with my final thoughts for McCarthy. So overall, I think he's a pretty good athlete, and that's where I really view his upside is as kind of a dual threat runner and, out of the structure, because he is very accurate on the run, as I mentioned. But I think as a pocket passer, I just worry about his true ceiling because he doesn't have some elite arm, and, he can really zip the ball in there, but his true arm talent isn't great. And then that, really leg centric or lower body centric throwing motion makes him a 1-speed thrower, and he didn't show any touch throwing ability at all. So his ability to really put in tight holes and stuff and layer it over defenders just isn't there. And then he really didn't show much times in college where he was making full field reads, and a lot of that's because of the offense. I get that. He's a young guy, and the flashes were pretty high of him being a pocket passer and reading the field. He does a good job avoiding turnovers, which I like, but he is very aggressive over the middle of the field, which is a good sign because at the end of the day, I'd rather have you be aggressive and throw picks than just throw checkdowns the whole time. So I like how aggressive he is in that aspect, but his accuracy outside the numbers is pretty bad right now. And his timing and anticipation and just true NFL quarterbacking ability is not there right now. So I think that's why I would like to see him sit for a year, maybe even two, and learn behind a bridge guy to really reach his full potential, because I think starting year one could stunt his growth. But then when it comes to a grade, I gave him a 6.16 on my 8-point scale, which does make him a third round prospect for me. He's a guy who's a potential starter. He will start at some point in the NFL, but I just don't see the floor is pretty low because of how limited or how raw he is, and how little he was asked to do in college. And then his ceiling isn't crazy high because his arm's not great and he's not crazy with the legs. You know, he's a good athlete, not a great athlete, and he has a good arm, not a great arm. So are you really drafting a guy whose upside is maybe like a top 11, top 12 quarterback in the league, in the top 10? And I wouldn't do that. Late half of the first round, maybe. I do a big board based off positional value, and he's going to end up in probably my top 30 of that. He is my quarterback 4. I like him a little better than Nix. I like him better than Penix, but he's not better than Daniels or May or Williams by any means. And if I'm taking a quarterback in the top half of the first round, they need to have superstar potential, star potential, and I'm just not getting that from JJ McCarthy. So I think he's solid. I'd take him in the back half of the first round. He's a developmental guy. He has some things that could definitely work out in the league, but I just don't see the superstar upside, as I mentioned. So that's how I think about McCarthy. A player comp, I kind of like Zach Wilson. Guys that are a little overrated when it comes to arm talent. Pretty quick, pretty slender builds, and pretty raw coming out of college. So I hope he turns out better than Zach Wilson, but he could very well be that high-end backup, fringe starter guy like Zach is. So much of it is situation dependent. I think if Zach was in a better situation, you know, who knows how his career turns out. So I kind of think of him as that caliber of player, someone who has some talent, but just is raw and doesn't have crazy upside. So that's going to wrap up the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys want to see any of my full write-ups, I'll link that in the description. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.